Thanks so much for inviting me to speak with you here today. It's spectacular to see, so many people who are going to be part of supporting the next generation of screen talent. And it's especially wonderful that we can all be here in the amazing screening theatre of the Adelaide Studios, which is this phenomenal asset that South Australia gets to enjoy and share. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting on the land of the Kaurna people, and I pay my respects to Kaurna elders past and present, and I acknowledge the Kaurna people's ongoing connection to their land and waters. So, as Matt said, my name is Beth Neate, and I'm the Head of Production and Development at the South Australian Film Corporation, and essentially my role is to manage the funds and programs that the SAFC administers on behalf of the SA Government. I've been asked this morning to talk about 3 topics with you. And at the end, I'd really like to save some time if we have for questions, because I'd really love to hear from you about what you want to know from me. The first topic really is about what the role of the SAFC is, and to get started, I think we might better play a little teaser. So that's all content that's been made in South Australia by South Australians in the last little while, and as you can see, it's a very diverse and exciting slate of content. So I think the SAFC does a lot of things, but the single most important thing SAFC does is champion the South Australian screen industry. It's really our job to advocate and to sing and promote the capabilities and the skills and the talents and the projects of our industry, and to remind everyone that South Australia is a world-class place for film and television production, because it absolutely is. The role of the SAFC has changed and evolved over time. When the SAFC was founded in 1972, it was founded as a producer of films, as a production company, and it had its own Act of Parliament, the South Australian Film Corporation Act. At that time, the Australian film industry was stagnating, and a lot of our screens were sort of dominated by kind of cheaper, poorer quality foreign content. So the idea in creating the Film Corporation was to invigorate the industry and to build skills and intellectual property locally. And it certainly did that. The Film Corporation was prolific. So, SAFC was responsible for producing documentaries and training videos and films for South Australian government departments. And there's this enormous body of work that was produced in that era, which is an incredible archive of South Australia at that time. And so many of our highly regarded writers and directors and producers, our cinematographers and our editors and our sound recorders got their first break in that government unit. But as well as that, we also ran a film and sound library. So we, managed an archive of all the content made in South Australia. And of course, from the very beginning, we ran studios and sound production facilities. First we were at Norwood, and then we're at Hendon, and now here at Glenside. But what the SAFC is also very well known for from that era was for being the producer of some of Australia's most beloved and iconic Australian films and television. So things like Breaker Morant and Sunday Too Far Away and Picnic at Hanging Rock and Storm Boy and The Shirley and Playing Beatty Bow, they were all made by the South Australian Film Corporation. And that's very unique in Australia. I mean, we're Australia's oldest screen agency, and so many industry heavyweights have some kind of association with the SFC and with South Australia from those early days. And what that has created over 50 years is an incredible legacy and an incredible trust that the wider industry has in South Australia. I mean, I don't always hear people speak quite so affectionately about other state agencies, no offence to anyone, but I feel like that fondness really comes from the fact that we gave opportunities to so many people who are now in decision-making roles. So there's definitely a lot of love for the South Australian Film Corporation and for South Australia generally. But of course, over time, the industry has evolved, and in many ways, we're on the cusp of another film renaissance in the fact that, as Matt mentioned, there's this huge proliferation of production activity happening right now. So today, the South Australian Film Corporation is not the producer of films. We don't make the films, we don't own the films, we don't employ the crew, we don't select which projects are going to be commissioned or go to market. What we do is we enable films and television by being a direct investor in film, television and digital projects. So that's the way we work. And the way we do that is we partner with other agencies. So we work very closely with Screen Australia, the federal government investment agency, as well as other state agencies like Film Victoria and Create New South Wales and Screen West. Every state has now a representative funding body. We also work really closely with broadcasters, so the free-to-air broadcasters and the public broadcasters, pay television, and increasingly the streaming services, who have this insatiable appetite for content and Australian-made content. We work with local production companies that are South Australian owned. We work with interstate companies, and we always encourage them to partner with South Australian companies, as well as Hollywood studios. So we have this diverse connection, and we really are part of the global screen industry. Yeah, I might just flip to the next teaser then. So what type of funding does SAFC provide? We support development, production and post-production. So we have a screen production fund, we have development strands, and we also support post-production and games through the PDV rebate and the video games development rebate. If anyone's interested kind of in those programs in a more granular detail, our website, the SAFC website, is a really great introduction to what those programs are, to kind of get to understand, you know, what is the investment landscape in South Australia and nationally, because our state government incentives really complement the federal incentives, and they're about making South Australia a really attractive and commercially viable place to bring productions to, and to also ensure that we're really supporting original owned intellectual property, so IP that's developed in South Australia. A great example of that at the moment is Aftertaste on ABC. It's at 9 o'clock on Wednesday nights. That's a series that was originated, developed, produced and post-produced in South Australia with a predominantly South Australian crew, made through a pandemic. And it's fantastic. So that's something maybe to share with your students, that as well as bringing in projects that are high profile and create lots of jobs, at the same time we're also working with companies that are local with original ideas and original creators to develop IP that's owned in South Australia. We provide funding as well to kind of increase the capability of screen businesses and the resilience of screen businesses, and we also provide funding for professional development for industry personnel. So we have programs for writers, directors, producers, as well as programs for crew. Fundamentally, with our industry development programs, we're always looking to partner with the market to make those opportunities more meaningful. So we've had, you know, a range of partnerships. We might partner with ABC or SBS or Audible or Universal, and it's about making sure that we're using every opportunity that SAFC has in the marketplace to leverage South Australia and to amplify South Australian talent. The way we fund typically is at a ratio of 1 to 10. So that means if a production is asking for funding from SAFC, for every dollar that we contribute, we're looking at the production spending $10 in South Australia. So when we're assessing a project, because there's always going to be so much demand, so much competition for limited funds, we're evaluating what are the benefits to the state, what are the economic benefits, what are the industry benefits, what are the South Australian elements. Is it based on a South Australian story? Is the company South Australian? Is the writer and director South Australian? If it's an interstate company, can they partner with us? Can we use their networks to build our capacity? Is it skills training? Is it jobs? Is it working in a regional area and bringing economic activity to that part of South Australia? So they're the whole kind of values and assessment criteria that we're using in how we spend. But typically that 1 to 10 ratio gives a company who wants to film here that certainty of a certain level of support that SAFC will aim to provide. One of the most important roles that we have is as an industry leader, and I think an area where we have forged ahead is in diversity. So we absolutely recognise that our industry is not very diverse and has typically been quite exclusive. So we, as an agency, have created a First Nations screen strategy, which was now in its second 5-year term. And that strategy is really about, creating genuine pathways for First Nations storytellers in South Australia. And it's guided by a screen strategy executive and a First Nations industry development executive. So if you've got students in your classes who are First Nations, we could happily, encourage our First Nations industry development executive to come and speak with them, because there are really genuine supportive pathways for First Nations storytellers. And the other area where we've had a significant focus in recent years is in disability, and we're guided by, again, a disability strategy executive and a disability equality plan, and we're always looking for opportunities to increase the number of disabled people in the film industry. Most recently, we offered a targeted attachment placement for paid work for a disabled creative to work on a long-form documentary series, and that's underway right now and will hopefully lead, to further work and career pathways for that person. So that's some of the agency side of the SAFC, but there's also the studio side, and that's exactly where you are now, inside the Adelaide studios. So the Adelaide studios include tenancies for a diverse mix of creative businesses, as well as full service production facilities. So we have 2 sound stages, a sound mixing theatre, this screening theatre, which also doubles as a grading theatre, makeup suites, edit suites, costume, laundry, a construction workshop, art departments, and production offices, which are utilised all the time. So a production will come in and it will hire the facility, and the facility can accommodate budgets and scales of productions of varying sizes. And it's fantastic to be able to have the productions here on site, because we're very integrated then with the industry. So businesses who are at the front of the building can connect with businesses that are at the back of the building, and we host events in the courtyard that you walk through for that sort of interconnectedness and mingling, because it is a people-based industry, and it is about making connections and collaborations and finding ways to work with each other. So we're very lucky that we have, had an incredible series of productions filmed here in recent years, and they're so different. It shows the incredible talent of South Australian crew and art departments and technicians. They're Hotel Mumbai, Adelaide director Anthony Maris's feature film was filmed here in the building. I Am Mother, starring Hilary Swank, which was edited by Sean Laheath and co-produced by South Australian producer Anna Vincent. That was filmed out in here. That became the sci-fi, futuristic bunker. We were the side of, the series Pine Gap for ABC and Netflix, so the studios turned into, an intelligence agency that was so realistic that someone who came and did a safety check complained about some of the walls, and we said, it's a set. And they said, no, this isn't allowed, this isn't legal. And we said, yeah, we know, it's cardboard. So we have incredible and a very adaptable crews who can make South Australia look like South Australia or like anywhere in the world. And having sort of all those titles really shows that, our content here, there's something very special about it. I don't know if it's our locations or our community or our unique perspective, but it really travels. It's incredibly distinctive content. And so you can really tell your students that they are really, part of a world-class screen community. And we created a page on our website called the Made in SA page, and it aggregates content made in South Australia by year and also shows you where you can find it. And building that literacy about South Australian made content is so important for people who want to enter the industry, because if you want to be part of this industry, you need to be passionate about it, you need to love it, you need to know it. Something I've really observed from successful producers is that they live and breathe TV and film. They watch everything. And so, if you've got really passionate students who are watching a lot of TV and film, they're probably doing exactly the right thing. I find it hard to tell my own children off for watching TV because I love TV so much. So, you really need to know who made what, who worked on what, and how did that, where did that travel, what did that do, and build that literacy and those screen references. So there's a production boom underway at the moment, and there's this insatiable appetite for screen content on the one hand, and then there's also COVID on the other. And so while we were already getting inquiries about filming in South Australia, because Australia is now seen as one of the safest places in the world, that has increased exponentially. I'm sure you would have seen there's a lot of A-list actors in Australia, and we hope they never want to leave because they help finance productions. But since January in particular, we've just seen this increase in inquiries. Our CEO, Kate Crozer, was recently quoted in the Advertiser that the value of inquiries to date was $380 million. So there's this rapid industry growth on the one hand, where projects are increasing in size and budget and complexity, but at the same time, nationally and in South Australia, there's a massive skills shortage and not enough crew. And there's an audit happening underway at the moment to find out where the skills gaps are, but they're definite and real, and there are opportunities. The screen industry does have the potential to be a genuine career pathway for young people. But the challenge is that to get work, you need to have some experience, and to get that experience, you need to be on set. So you have to work your way through a variety of roles. It's kind of an apprenticeship system informally, and you have to demonstrate a commitment and a willingness and a tenacity. So people take unpaid work experience, they work for each other on no budget or low budget productions, and they self-fund their own projects in the first instance. They attend industry events and they start to get to know people that way. They subscribe, and I would encourage you all to do this, to the SAFC newsletter to kind of be aware of what's coming up and what opportunities there are and what events that they can attend. The great thing about this industry is that it's always looking for new talent, and when you invest in the industry invests in you. So if you get your students to understand that from the very beginning, they'll have a great advantage. You've got to start at the bottom. You don't finish school or finish uni and become a director, but there are also a great variety of roles in film and television. So not everyone is going to be or needs to be a writer, a director or a producer. There are a lot of different skill sets that are required. We also need editors and sound recorders and cinematographers and gaffers and grips and animal wranglers and caterers and unit coordinators and post supervisors and stunt coordinators and drivers and safety officers. The list goes on and on and on. And an average South Australian production is going to have about 100 local crew. That's 100 jobs that your students could fill. And if we're getting bigger international productions, that can be 3 or 4 or 5 times as many jobs. And on the other side, on the post-production, you've got that many jobs as well. So there is a huge opportunity for young people coming through. What are the existing opportunities for the next generation? SAFC doesn't work directly with very early career filmmakers and new graduates, but in SA we're so lucky we still have a media resource centre. It's called the Mercury now, and it really does give opportunities to early career filmmakers to get their first project made. And it also runs a conference called the Screenmakers Conference, which if you haven't attended is just so valuable. You really get access to the best minds in the screen industry, but they come with this generosity of spirit and access because they understand that everyone in the room is emerging, and everybody, they were in that position once. And so it's this really fantastic thing that South Australia provides that is really available to, students and early career filmmakers. What SAFC recognises is that it is really difficult to make that first big project and to get noticed in the industry and to break through. At the moment, we've got a program called Film Lab New Voices, which is in partnership with the Adelaide Film Festival and the Mercury. And that's a program which will fund the development of 3 projects, and then one of those projects will move into production the following year. And at the moment, we're in the kind of assessment stage of that scheme. And it's so exciting to see the depth of talent that's basically coming through the ranks. And so, that's the thing about this industry. It's always looking for new voices, and it's always looking for new talent, and it's always our job to help facilitate pathways for that talent. I just wanted to give you some information about the current screen landscape because I think you might find it quite interesting. Oh yeah. So every year Screen Australia produces an annual drama report, and that's kind of a retrospective analysis of expenditure in drama production across production and post-production. It gives you a snapshot of the activity that's happening nationally and state by state. And if you're a massive geek like I am, you'll love reading this report. It's on the Screen Australia website and it's brought out every year. According to this analysis, South Australia is the only state in Australia to deliver year-on-year growth since 2014-15, which is pretty phenomenal. Last year, in spite of the impacts of COVID-19 and the global shutdown of screen production, South Australia achieved a 15% share of national drama production expenditure. That was $146 million spent on drama in South Australia. So that doesn't include additional expenditure on documentary titles or commercials or corporate or sports or light entertainment or news. For every 2 jobs in the screen industry, another job is created somewhere else in the South Australian economy. 15% of national screen production is very significant, especially when you consider that South Australia's share of the national population is only 6.9%. So we totally punch above our weight. So just some take-homes that you might like to share with your students. What are the strengths of the South Australian screen industry? Well, we have really highly regarded crews and creatives and companies, which means we can make world-class projects and people want to work here. We have really competitive screen incentives, which make it commercially attractive. We have outstanding locations. They're pretty close to the CBD. You don't have to drive for over an hour before it looks rural like you do in other states. There's an ease of filming here that shouldn't be underestimated, and we hear this all the time. The lack of traffic, the friendliness of local people, and the willingness of locations to let people trample all over their premises. It's not to be underestimated. So I would want you to leave with the idea that this is a really exciting time for young people to enter the industry. There are genuine pathways, and do subscribe to our newsletter and our Facebook page to stay up to date with the latest we offer. And we've got a final teaser.
Hello, my beautiful big sister. Did you bring me a feed or miss breakfast?
You cheeky little shit.
Ready, don't leave me!
Okay,
no,
see ya,
no.
bye!
That's crazy. Benji's probably already after it.
Forget Benji.
Hi, Mum. I just sit there and just listen to what I remembered that was there, because it's only memories for me now.